welcome y'all to another BANGover podcast. Very special episode today. We are talking about Mortalis's newest album, Death Rattle Valley. Sorry there. I just
rattled your throat.
Just rattled my throat when I said that. That's how intense this music really was. It kind of fucked me up. God damn it. Again, I'm Scott Allen with Chris Myers as always. And we're going to just sit here and talk a little bit about one of our favorite bands in Austin's newest full length, I would say.
Yes, their sophomore album.
It's great. It's from start to finish very psychedelic, cosmic. You can kind of tell that you're taking a trip when you're listening to it, you know?
They recommend you listen to it as a complete work also.
At high volume.
At high volume. Well, especially that.
I love those little things that this band always does when they kind of talk about their style and their music, that the words that they use when they talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just like stoner rock, psychedelic. It goes on to like creating your own like little subgenre. What was it called?
Narcore.
Narcore, which is clever. Like, this is what you should be doing as a band. Really being like an imaginative, I can't even say words. Just having an imagination, all right, about what it comes to the way the band looks, as much as it sounds for sure, but the way a band looks by using these words, these descriptive words. Their album art's another thing.
Yeah.
And it really does give you an idea of what they're going to sound like before you even click play. You know what I mean? You kind of know what you're setting yourself up for. And, I mean, the song we were just listening to, Warhead, track number 1, I really love the way that song starts. It's kind of upbeat, and that bass just gets so crunchy. It's like we, as a group of friends that do this podcast, we're kind of obsessed when it comes to bands that sound like this at times, because we're so far in the grasps of, you know, the Melvins. And I know, like, the Melvins is, like, this band that's, like, cult following, right? And most people, like, it's so sad that a band like the Melvins got so popular because of Nirvana, and everyone being like, oh, this is Nirvana's favorite band, that's how they get started, so this is why they kind of grew up out of the underground, which I'm sure the Melvins hate. But that just having fun with music, that's what the Melvins do. You know, it's not like they're grunge or stoner rock or whatever, punk. It's just, the Melvins just do what the Melvins do. Mortalis just does what Mortalis does. Yes, they can fit into the stoner, they can fit into the psychedelic, but they're their own entity. They're their own selves. You know what I mean? Because time and time again, and I love to bring this up on this podcast, is how, like, we have played with so many different types of bands as Flooded Tombs, me and you, right? Which Flooded Tombs is nothing like Mortalis, nothing like Day Eater, you know, nothing like Rickshaw Billy's Burger Patrol, but we've all played with each other, as well as my other band, the Low Down and Out, which doesn't sound like any of those three bands, but for some reason we all kind of have one thing that we all have in common, and really it's just rock and roll, you know? I mean, again, Flooded Tombs don't go that fucking heavy, but we're definitely a heavier level than when it comes to, like, the Low Down and Out, because it's just where you pick. It's not like a bad or a good thing, but it's just the styles that we pick to play with. But again, like, Mortalis can fit into a metal show. They can fit into a psychedelic show, you know? They could be at the Lost Well one night and then the next day be over at the Electric Church. So very versatile band, and you could hear it in their sound. You can hear it in the way they structure songs. It's very... There's a lot of big chunks. There's a lot of pieces. We go on journeys with them, sound-wise. And then they bring us back sonically towards the end to, like, really wrap it up and catch you with a hook. It's a great idea. And I can't say, like, enough when it comes to how much I've always loved this band. Everyone in it. Let's go over some of the members. I'm sorry, Mortalis, but I'm not doing your last names. Chris will try. If you've ever listened to our podcast, we're horrible when it comes to someone's last name.
Lucas Indrikovs
lead guitar rhythm, Michael Minoz, backup vocals, lead guitar, Louis Roa, bass guitar, and Brett Hanrahan,
God
drums.
damn it.
What is up with people's names?
We're cursed.
No, I'm just kidding.
But, well, you do a pretty good job at...
I try, but I'm just... lately,
you're a reader.
I mean, lately in the podcast, we've been having to read some crazy names.
Yeah.
And it's been...
not everyone is fucking,
Jones.
Kurt Hammett. It's like, that one's easy,
Yeah.
Even your name, Chris Myers.
I mean, pretty...
This is why I go by Scott Allen.
Traditional name, yeah, that's what I mean. Burlette's pretty.
Yeah, you want to Google search this?
Yeah,
I
pretty
can't
hard
even
name.
remember how to search this,
Yeah.
Lucas, what the heck? Let's talk a little bit about the band. We've hung out with these guys before. We've had them play some of our BANGover showcases. Fucking super nice group of people. Humble, down to earth, just like the type of musicians that I would love to work with myself. You know what I mean? Like, all these people just seem very dedicated, passionate, and they want to go in there and have fun. So they're not to the level of degree that they're throwing shit at band members or just getting in arguments because they're so fucking that type about it. But they're just in there hey, how did we create? I mean, this is the feeling I get from them. They just go in there and they just kind of sit down and talk, and I'm sure in the jam room, and just kind of let these songs come out. You know what I mean? It just kind of happens on their own. Love Lucas's vocals. God damn it,
Yeah.
He can really sing. I should probably have talking. I want to talk to him about any training that he's had or something like that, or maybe some pointers that he can help me out to, because I can roar, I can growl, but I would love to be able to do what he does vocally.
Yeah.
It's so, I don't know, so wide range. There's times where he does get a little crunchy, but there's a little bit of vocal effects, I would say, on some songs.
Yeah.
I know on prior
there
recordings.
was some doubling, it sounded like, or just that octave kind of drop. It sounded a little low. Detuning it. There's a lot of different vocal things they're doing on this album. It keeps the song interesting if you have this stoner riff that's kind of just grooving. Keeps your interest in something, you know what I mean?
Oh, for real.
How the vocals are kind of doing weird things.
Because for me, I love this style of music of when it comes to stoner or this jam band psychedelic kind of thing. But it does get kind of long in parts, and it's all about how you make it.
Well, they have
interesting.
fairly long songs, 6-7 minute long songs, so you got to keep it interesting. You gotta keep the listener engaged.
Right.
Also, it helps the song, especially if what you're talking about is supernatural or spiritual. They're the theme of the song. If it fits that,
Right.
Totally.
And it's kind of in the vocals themselves, the lyrics. It's how the story kind of goes, and that's where usually these vocal effects kind of take off, is when we get to this point in the story where it kind of calls for it. So I feel like it's very clever. At least that's how I hear it. And if they're listening right now and they're we didn't intend to do that, but it definitely, it sounds like it. It's really hard to judge your music or really listen to your music when you play it and create it. You know what I mean? You have no idea. You've spent too long on this to where it doesn't even make sense anymore. But we also have Michael doing the backup vocals too, so we get a good dynamic of two singers there. And I love how they both play guitar and both sing. Those are always the best because they can go back and
weave
forth.
in and out.
Weave in and out. Yeah, I like that a lot. Which that guy is one of the best too. Just fucking insanely nice guy. Great guitar player. He always goes hard on stage for sure. He brings a lot of the energy, him and the drummer, when performing.
I remember listening to this album and hearing some of those songs played live last time we had played with them. They sound just as good.
Yeah, they
Like, I
sound
remember,
just like the album.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I mean, speaking of like that, it was interesting to see that their first release was kind of a collection of all their singles they had released prior, and their art is always awesome. Like the singles, maybe had
The
like
art
different
is great,
artists,
yeah.
and especially from the first 2 full lengths. But that first artwork is really dope, and then you have this new album, which the artwork really reflects kind of the theme of the album too, death. That whole valley motif. It's
Right.
got the rocks and stuff. So, like, it seems like they're getting into their groove. If that they're finding the artwork that's working for the album, the themes that are working, the sounds, the vocal stuff. I mean, we're gonna get into the guitar stuff and the way that sounds. I mean, some of these, the riffs. Not only are the riffs like just kind of classic sort of riffs when you break down each section and stuff, but then like what they're doing, like tonally, you got that crunchy bass, you got the guitars doing weird effects and kind of coming in and out with that type of stuff, and we'll go over like some of the gear and stuff they used in the studio and stuff
for sure. Lewis, right, bass player.
Yes.
Love that fucking bass sound. It's one of the most present things on the recording. Especially, I think he clicks into like a fuzz pedal or something like that, or like a big muff. Something just like, it's all okay. And then really when we get down to those like breakdown, those heavy parts, those where the vocals get very atmospheric, and then it's just this crunch of a goddamn bass where you just like kind of have to turn it down a little. Like, no, don't. For you guys at home, don't turn it down. But I have these sensitive ears, and I'm just like, oh, this bass is going to kill an octave in my hearing. But, yeah, that bass is just so fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe it?
That's kind of, I think, how it's sticking out in the mix. It's not, I mean, the guitars are doing their own kind of fuzz thing, too. But it's, I can't remember which song it is, but there's a part where it breaks down in the bass. I mean, you could use the first song as an example how it leads in with that bass. So, I mean, let me see what he's actually...
And then, obviously, we have Brett, the drummer, and a really young guy, but very talented. I look forward to like kind of seeing him if he keeps playing. I hope he keep playing. 10 years from now, like my age and just where he's at, because he's really good now, and just with time and effort, it's just going to be amazing, astonishing. And he's just like me, just like every other drummer in this town, has like fucking 4 other bands. One of them I know is a burn band, and that's more of like just a punk rock band, if you will. But we played some showcases with them too, but it's more, we did festivals to where it's like they played early, we played late, or vice versa. It was just like, it's one of those like kick butt coffee shows. We played a show that they were playing. If you remember, Chris, I've seen him a couple times outside of that. Great drummer, kills it, really puts in the energy, really just puts forth like in my opinion, just being a drummer, getting up there and just, not adding too much, but just playing with these songs, being a part of these songs. Because, again, I believe this kid, Brett, sorry, didn't mean to call you kid, has the ability to do what any drummer would do and kind of make things complicated at times when it doesn't need to be, like kind of showing too much, just going and over drumming, as some people would say. But he keeps it tucked in, he keeps it tight, and when it's called upon, he always throws down like a really catchy beat for those like opening parts or just those drops. And great, always on it, and totally brings the energy, keeps on going. That's one of the most amazing things about this band, is that it doesn't feel like there's a lot of turnaround with their songs, you know what I mean? In between in their set. It's almost like there is no like time in between, which is, for me, I always find so hard, because everyone's like, oh, we got to go into the next song right away, and I'm like, I just need to breathe. It's really hot on stage, or I'm just trying to get a feel for the stage, so I keep adjusting things. Being a drummer and all,
Yeah.
because I've had this conversation with every band I'm in. It's like, all right, we're gonna play the first 3 songs back to back without stopping, and then I'm like, well, during the first 2, just in between there for a second, I might need to fix something like my bass pedal if it kind of slipped out of place, or something I might not have been lined up, or I might have smacked one of the microphones off of the drum set. You know, there's so many things that can happen in that first song.
Yeah.
That I want to be flawless and simultaneous and just like go into each song, like Mortalis, like where it's flawless and they really set a vibe when they hit the stage and everyone can feel it. You know, they really kind of. I mean, I would hate to play after these guys, in my opinion, because it's like, damn, that was so good. Now we're gonna go up there and just be.
We might be playing after them, so I don't know.
So yeah, we probably should just shout that out right now. Their next show would be October 25th at Dozen Street with Immerse and Flooded Tombs. Us, hey, what about? That's our next show as well.
Yeah,
and I'm sure this is a really hardworking band. You can see them; they're everywhere. They're all the time. Most likely, they'll probably get a gig before then.
Yeah.
We're about a month and 5 days out.
This album comes out on the 20th, so hopefully they can get something booked before then.
2 days from now. Yeah. Please go check it out, y'all. You can find it on their Bandcamp at Mortalis. It is Mortales. Your phone will say it's wrong.
Yeah, search it in Bandcamp, you'll find it. Speaking of, let's get into another tune from that album that's coming out.
Yes.
It's another good track. This is one that has a lot of the vocal stuff going on, and it's a dynamic tune coming in at, I think like 6-7 minutes.
Ooh.
So.
All right, turn it up, spark up one of those hog legs, and just close your eyes.
makes a man to know his time has come. The truth will drop just like a nuclear bomb. And we know that you've been lying. 'Cause I know that you've been lying. Cause we know that you've been lying. Hostility of a bomb. Feel the kickback like a gun. And if you stand then you'll get crucified anytime home. And if you don't, you better watch out, 'cause you're the criminal.
And that was Hostility of a Bomb by Mortalis. The ending's amazing. I really love the ending of all their songs. They really just, especially when it there for a second gets real slow in that like third half, and then at the end just
They're really good
bring
at
it home.
bringing tempos up and down, like
Yeah.
speeding it up, slowing it down.
And,
So,
and we know from recording, that's not easy to go
No.
into the studio and do that.
yeah, they have a few. They have another song on this album where it starts ramping up. You know what I mean? I believe
Yeah.
it might even be this one.
You got to be like real.
Well, this one does
Real on
ramp
the
up
money
at
with the-
parts, but
yeah.
I think there's a I can't remember, but no, they do that a lot with their tempos. They're playing with them, and this album's a good showcase of that.
I'm curious if whether or not they just done this like live in some ways, like recording the drum part.
Oh, yes, yes.
It's kind of like they all go in there and play with the drummer. If not, the drummer's amazing, and the rest of the band is too, to do these speed ups, these tempo changes, and then having the guitars go back in and try to re-record that, and like knowing exactly where this is going to speed up and slow down without having that other person in the room. I know that could be really hard for a guitar player,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into some of the like session of speaking of recording and like, stuff like that. Let's get into like some of the equipment they used
in the studio
and people that mixed it and stuff. They did it at Clockright Studios, which is by Jason Richard, who's formerly of Rocky Erickson's band. I don't know what he did in the band. I'm not too familiar with Rocky Erickson.
Guitar player, bass player, drummer, right?
So I mean, he's a local
right
guy. And they did the mastering at Sunroom Audio, which I don't know if that's here in town, but because you can send your stuff off, have it mastered. I didn't really look to see.
Sorry, we didn't do that much research and deep dive into the.
But that was by
studio.
Dan Coutant.
Well,
so
should be hitting that guy up to master the lowdown and out. Yeah.
And so they used a lot of different gear, which I mean, definitely you can hear in all the tracks, the different layers and textures and stuff. They got, Black Star, Orange, Marshall amps. That's just on the guitar. And
That Black Star is a solid state, right? Because I can really just hear that, like,
HT50, I'm not sure. I think
I feel like I talked to them about this before, that fucking correct me if I'm wrong, but one uses a tube, one uses solid, so it really does create that
I think that Crush
cool mixture.
I think the Crush Pro might be solid. I don't know. Orange Crush Pro. But the Marshall probably is a tube. That one might be, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that bass, it's that Ampeg. They got an Ampeg SVT for
Is
that bass tone, and that's why it's just like clear, cutting through. I love it. I love Ampeg. That's like my favorite bass amp.
I mean, I believe when I talk to a bass player, that's all we ever talk about.
But I think they fail pretty. I think they're like failure rate's pretty high, but they're just like tone is really good.
Let me just think of it like this: it's so badass. It creates such like a reverberation that it destroys itself.
Kills itself. And
it's like an old muscle car.
Let's see, they used another bass head, a Galen Kruger bass head. So I mean that probably adds another thick layer to it. I'm not too familiar with the tone of those.
Yeah, were we thinking that they just hooked both of these bastards up and got that one whole tone, or were they switching in and out?
Maybe here this song required this tone. Maybe this amp didn't take a fuzz pedal, properly or something. It's cool that they had all this equipment to play with. I don't know if it's theirs,
Right.
If it, regardless, it's good stuff to have at hand.
Right. Because like we've learned in prior episodes, like it's kind of like a band goes and records something like their second album, a third album, a fourth, and they have all this stuff to their disposal that they never had before. So they're just left free to create whatever, like no restrictions. And then after that, it's like, how do we learn how do we do this live now? Yeah. But don't let that mindset of it being live stop you from what you can possibly create with some of the things that you didn't know you could use.
And they got, SGs, Gretches, some Strats, Fender Jazz Bass, and then they used...
that's what the bass sounds good again.
Yeah. And they got a bunch of pedals, Dunlop Boss, Electro Harmonics, which is, all those crazy tones and sounds. And
dude, I love the sound effects.
Yeah.
Especially when there's no one there besides for the guitar players doing those sound effects. It's like, oh man, I fucking love when guitar players do stuff like that. Really, in my opinion, it's kind of like the best thing about a guitar is able to do stuff like solos or sound effects or just these weird tones.
This is filled with solos too. There's some crunchy solos on this album.
I love that shit, dude. Yeah. And the drum set, it's just pretty basic. It's your mid-level Yamaha custom, stage custom, in some B8 Sabians, which aren't the brightest cymbals, but they are like a little bit of a heavier cymbal, to where it comes to like, it's heavy but not loud or shimmery. Like a thinner cymbal, especially on a recording, something like a XX or AAX, the high end of Sabian would just really cut through and you could hear it quite well. But something like a B8, a BAX, these are just a dollar sound, so it really just creates this like low type of volume of not really standing above the mix, just kind of sitting right there, a little, like I guess right where the guitars are. But, like a lot of times we like to hear cymbals that sometimes are above everything else. Yeah, when it comes to crash cymbals,
sometimes,
because you want to just smash it straight through. That's the whole point of a crash cymbal.
Yeah.
It's like that accent. We've talked about that before, like where you put cymbals level-wise, never letting them go past the rest of the volume. You know?
There's like, it's just kind of like it's a preference. Yeah, it can be annoying. There's too high frequencies all the time. But I mean, I've listened to some Deftone stuff and it's like super buried in the mix, but that's because like you want those crashes are just there to kind of like flourish and not take over the mix. But then there's times where like you want that blast, maybe it needs to be like really heavy in the mix, and like I don't know.
It all depends on what you're going for. I guess the sound. I can see why.
I think this type of music doesn't really necessarily need.
No,
you need to hear what the guitars and bass are doing. The drums just need to be there to like keep things groove and like
moving.
Yeah, moving. Yeah. You hear the fills and you hear the like. I mean, you can hear the ride and stuff like he does whenever he's going to it. It's real clear he's going to it, but it's just not super overbearing.
It's I think those cymbals suit their sound very well because it doesn't really break anything up, especially when you get thrashing on it on stage. It's going to stay at a certain volume level no matter what, even the harder you hit it, it's not going to really change. And the drum set itself is very like a low tone drum set as well. You don't get a lot of resonance from that particular drum set because of like the type of wood that it's made out of. I think it's a little bit mixed with mahogany. I could be wrong, but it's not just poplar. Like mine's a poplar and or poplar. I can't even say the word. That type of wood, really cheap. It screams. It's really loud. It's kind of like wah, which this drum set's a little bit lower and it's just a little bit of a punch, And you can hear it too. It's like the bass drum on this kind of just seems like, maybe it's just how it was recorded, but it's a little bit, it sounds like a little bit like it's loose.
Yeah.
It's not really cutting. It's just kind of there, just rocking out, And the bass is really where it cuts a lot, We get a lot of bass and vocals, and the drums sit below the bass, and the guitars sit above the bass.
Yeah.
So, and then the vocals are above that. So these like 4 layers, if you will, to create their soundscape. If I could like draw it out in your mind, But yeah, I mean, some of this stuff is just on the money. It's I'm quite surprised and jealous because it sounds so good. They should be so fucking proud of this, and everyone should fucking go out and listen to this.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts on like?
I mean, I'm looking forward to playing with them October 25th at Dozen Street with Immerse and Flooded Tombs.
Yeah.
Both those bands are really good.
I mean, if the album comes out on the 20th, if people dig it and love the album, come to the show because they're going to play these songs live. I'm pretty sure they're going to probably maybe play the whole album. I don't know how long. I mean, the song's pretty. Maybe I don't know how long their set is. This might be maybe too much material, but we'll see. Maybe
if it's just these 3 bands, we'll just play all night.
Hit them up, and if you got a favorite song, maybe they'll play it.
Yeah, find them on Bandcamp. You can also find them on Facebook.
Support them on Bandcamp.
Yeah, they got a fucking Instagram, at Mortalis. I think it's ATX, but we'll put the links in this when we make the post. And for sure, please, everyone, check out this album, check out this band, go see them live. And thank you, Mortalis, for letting us
check it out.
Yes, beforehand.
Talk about it, promote it
I feel
help y'all promote it. I mean,
I feel so special being able to hear it before everyone else.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I really do appreciate that, y'all.
It's good hearing these songs because I've heard them in the past, some of them, and to hear them like in their, I guess, recorded state, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Like this next one that we're gonna end on, Golem. I think it's my favorite tune, just because it's got some like really cool riffs in it, sounds great. I don't know.
Yeah, we get everything that we wanted. Those great vocals, crunchy bass, the drums that just keep things fucking going.
The tempo swinging in and out. So,
throw me a fucking solo, bro.
Yeah.
Go, Michael. Thanks again, y'all. You can find BANGover on all the platforms as well. Click, like, follow, Instagram, Facebook, and our YouTube page. It's always at BANGover Productions. And we'll see you again.